in this plant, and we'll pour libation for Sister Harriet Tubman, Brother Carlos Cooks, Marcus Garvey, Louise Little, Earl Little, Booker T. Washington, W. B. Du Bois, Frederick Douglass, Sister Ella Baker. I think it was yesterday, the day before yesterday, marked the anniversary of Kwame Ture letters. We'll say for libation for brothers, Carmichael Kwame Ture. Brother Omowale Malcolm X. Let's call out some other names. You call them out for us.
First one.
People who no longer here done good work. We say? Ashe.
Gabriel Marshall.
Ashe. Come on, call them out. Fam, call out your family members who done good work.
Sister Bakari.
Sister Bakari.
Arkham.
Ashe.
Mandy Ruffin.
Ashe.
Mandy Ruffin.
Ashe. Ashe. Ashe.
Noah.
Ashe. Ashe. For those whose names we did not mention again,
John Africa.
Ashe. Stay to be with us.
Roberta Robinson.
Ashe.
Ashe.
All right, it's done. So, May 19th, 1925, Malcolm came here physically. It's going to be 200 years next May, so we're having this lecture series. Every month we've been having people who have put in the good work in line with the legacy of Malcolm X. They come talk to us, come speak to us about some of the issues that Malcolm was dealing with back in the day. We kicked it off in August with Brother Cam Howard talking about reparations. And in September, we had our own Robert Campbell. He spoke on, Robert Campbell was a Black Panther Party member in Illinois. So he spoke on Malcolm's influence on the Black Panther Party. And we already mentioned Brother Salim Abdul Khalid and his rap on Ballot or Bullet and the upcoming election. That was last month. And next month, we're gonna have Dr. Barry Cartman. He's gonna speak on why our children are fighting so much. He's a psychologist, bad brother, conscious brother. And then in January, we have Sister Tony Simpson. She's gonna be talking about peace. And so these things are coming up. Also, we're looking to be at Malcolm X College on January 1st, 2025, as we kick off the actual 100th anniversary year of when Malcolm was born at Malcolm X College for the last day of Kwanzaa, which is the Kwanzaa ceremony, which is the biggest celebration. So we're looking to be there on January 1st. And we're trying to get one of Malcolm's daughters here, working on some other programming. This lecture series will go on throughout the year, next year. That's our plan. Today, we have a special person that's going to be speaking with us today about this issue of these prisons, this prison industrial complex. We were just on a tour, an environmental tour, to let the people know. As we toured Gary, Lakefront and other areas in Gary, we saw a lot of the dilapidation and the issues here. And we know that the prison industrial complex has decimated not just Gary, but Black communities all over. And it's planned and it's purposeful. You know, they're trying to build another, not trying to build a prison, they got money to build an upgraded prison in Westville, $1 billion something.
1.3 billion. 1.3 billion.
$1.3 billion for a prison. And we're right down the street, you know what they're gonna try to put in that prison. So about, it wasn't 10 years ago, but maybe it was 7, 8 years ago. It was right after the election when the city of Gary tried to bring in the world's second largest prison corporation, GEO Prisons, to build a detention center prison here. So we organized this group and fought against that. We stopped them once, they tried to come back again, we stopped them again. And so they had to leave Gary and go somewhere else and try, and they've been stopped other places too. So, and this sister was part of that organization. She's part of CDOT, Central District Organizing Project. She was part of that. She worked with us with there's so many initiatives with Black Lives Matter, and also part of Saving Our Families. Our comrade, good sister, Sister Akili Shakur is going to talk about prison industrial complex and freeing our political prisoners. Come on, sister.
I am so happy that you guys have taken the time out today, 'cause it's been a busy day all day, starting at about 5:30 this morning. So, if I grab water, that's because I am dehydrated. But as my sister was over there talking about the 1.3 billion that they're putting in at Westville once they close up Indiana State Prison, that they're going to make that one the major hub. In Indiana, we have 9,000, I want to say almost 10,000 people that are locked up in the state of Indiana alone. And so, how many of you all know of people that are locked up or have been locked up? So we're just gonna have a conversation, okay? Because I quit lecturing when I left the college I was teaching at. So we're gonna talk about this so that we can all, because I know we all have stories. There's something that we've not been able to get the word out enough to me, is there's a difference between, well, there isn't a difference, but people usually, when they think of the word political prisoners, they're thinking of individuals who went into prison because of a political stance that they had prior to getting arrested. And whenever, if you noticed American history, in American history, anytime a person of color stands up for anything that has to do with the so-called freedom and the justice, there's always a means for it to be found illegal. There's always a means of being able to lock them up for years at a time in prison. And what has always been amazing is that the same policies that started this country when America was in its infancy, they fought against Britain because they wanted their freedom. Nobody went to jail. Okay, they're called our forefathers, or y'all's forefathers, somebody's forefathers. You look like my daddy. But that's what you're taught in school. That was a good fight because they were fighting for their freedom and they didn't want to pay the taxes and they didn't want to be, they want the freedom to have their own religions. Move forward a little bit. You have people of color that are brought over here, and there were some that came on their own, recognizance or whatever you want to call it, they came. But the majority of blacks in this country were brought here without people's permission. They were brought here, they were set up to be a means for making money. And so when they have tried, when we have tried, when individuals have said, we choose to be treated as humans, and all this freedom you all say that people have, religion, freedom of all these different things, it's not allotted to us, then history will tell you in so many words that we went along with it so quietly, so nicely, the happy slave, every now and then there was a little something going on, but it wasn't that way. It was always a fight. There were always those who took the initiative to say, no, this is not working for us. There's a movie, and in that movie, The Matrix, and it says, those that you fight for the hardest are those that fight you the hardest. And so whenever you're looking at, when they talk about civil rights, whatever rights that come out of the freedoms of people of color, of black people, is always measured by other ethnicities and in lieu of them joining with us, but how much freedom do they have, based off of what freedoms we don't have. So you have these individuals, and it didn't just start in the 60s. It started from the beginning that individuals were fighting for that so-called elusive word called freedom. And they fought in all types of ways. And so it doesn't become a freedom fighter in the sense of what we look at today, is because you automatically could be lynched. They didn't even have to have a trial, none of that. You're still being lynched. The trials are just, they're still kind of, they've already decided by the time you get in court what the outcome is basically going to be. And for the longest, the judgment of your peers, where you couldn't have peers if they weren't allowed to vote, and if they weren't registered, they didn't choose them. So the deck has been stacked against people of color, okay? And so when you look at that, and you see, as generation after generation, you see people deciding, you know what, on the shoulders of my forefathers, I'm going to take a stance. anytime you have a war, I've never seen a war where people don't lose their lives. I don't know what you would call it if they didn't lose their lives. And so when you come, if I come in your house and you're living there, and I start moving things around and telling you what you can do and what you can't do and what your kids gonna do and your spouse is going to do, what would be your first inclination if I didn't invite you into my house? Now, today they say, stand your ground. Okay, they use that term. I was just standing my ground. But when people of color stand their ground, it's a crime. And what they have done throughout history of this country is they found ways to make people of color afraid to let their voices be heard. And what they do, if they don't kill you, okay, for standing your ground, then they want to silence you. They silence us through inadequate education, inadequate jobs, inadequate housing. They pit poor people against each other, no matter what the ethnicity is. Everybody's fighting for the capitalistic dream of limited resources. Everybody thinks somebody else is gonna get something that they don't have. And if you look throughout history, there have been cultures in this world that were basically more spiritual than they were on this, I gotta have me, this capitalistic ideology. But they changed that for you. When you come to the land of so-called plenty, and you see somebody else with one loaf of bread more than you, then you start looking, and that becomes your enemy, because they've indoctrinated us with that ideology. A lot of people that I know are faith-based, okay? They're faith-based, and they believe in the Christian Bible, King James Version. And it's one thing nobody's ever been able to explain to me up under that, is that, correct me with the names, because I can be a heathen sometimes. Paul, is it Paul? Paul that was the greatest killer of individuals whom Jesus loved the most.
Yeah.
Am I correct?
Yeah.
Was he hung on the cross? Was he locked up? But the good book says we're supposed to, with all this love and forgiveness, right? Why is it that we only love when it's convenient, but we don't love when we see how this system has turned people into where they are, fighting for limited resources? And out of that comes neglect of our children. It comes the breaking of homes. It comes the envy, the jealousy, all those things you're not supposed to possess. You end up with that. And so they say, well, you know what? People are not following the rules. See, rules weren't made for people that were going to, let me back up. Rules were made for people to scare you into following whatever it is that it's supposed to be, the tradition, the rules for engagement. And every now and then you have these individuals to step out of it. It's not working for me. If I'm hungry and I'm out here on these streets and I can't get nothing the legal way, I can't think of that rapper who put that song out, says, I walked up to you and I asked you for a cigarette. You looked down at me like I was dirt and you asked me why I be robbing. Little things. You see people that are economically challenged out here, and if they walk up on you, oh no, I ain't got no dollar. Oh, move. Okay, you do it enough. People say, you know what, since you won't give it to me when I ask you for it, how about I just take it? I just take it all. So what do? We gotta have rules behind that. So if you take something from me, then I gotta find something to do to scare everybody else from being able to do the same thing. See, that's what rules are made for. It's to scare people into following the rules. When you're in kindergarten, they say, walk on the yellow line. When they start you off, do it just this way. Don't move, stay in line. And you grow up with those lines. They get bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay, you're supposed to go to school, get an education, get a job, get married, 2.5 kids, all these different things that they put out there, rules that you're supposed to follow. But when people say, this rule's not working, okay, I've done all these things and it's not happening. You've got parents that's got to work 2 jobs, and that's probably my phone if somebody can find it and take it out. It's probably back there. When you have people that, Mike, why did you got a pizza?
You know that's your fault.
I think it's my fault that ringing. When you have individuals that have tried to live by the rules, and here's something else that's really funny, because I would almost bet that 99.9 of us have broken a rule before. And at any given point, it could have went a different way and you could have went to jail for it. Be it adding an extra deduction on your taxes. That's illegal, okay? I don't know what all the things that people indulge in. That could have been speeding. You could have been speeding, hey, I got away with it this time. We break rules when they're convenient, but we look down on others when they break rules, especially if it's against us. There is no forgiveness. All your faith goes out the window. You forget all about Paul, okay, whom Jesus loved most. You do all of that. So we start building these buildings, okay? They started off with slavery. That's all prisons are. If you read the Indiana Constitution, you're considered a slave if you're a ward of the state. It's still in our Constitution. There are states across this country that are trying to get it taken off of their Constitution, but you are considered a legal slave in the state of Indiana. People don't know that black people in Indiana, when they first started letting us come into Indiana, had to put up $500 bond in order to be able to stay in Indiana, prove they weren't a runaway slave, and that they weren't going to cause any problems. Now, think about that. How many people do you think would add $500? I always wonder, how did my parents get here? Why Indiana? Okay, but that is in your history, and we don't know very much about history because, you know, they're taken away. We've been so entertained. We get entertained with anything that we forget about history. And so we don't know where we come from, so therefore it makes it hard to move forward. Because you don't see that there's people who have given their lives for the freedom of those who have no voices. And when you start talking about political prisoners, let me just tell you this. I've been on both sides of the coin, okay? I have worked in a prison. I have worked on the outside of a prison. I have been working with prisoners for over 100 years. I've done all of that. So I've seen both sides of it. And I know exactly what happens and who ends up where. 85% of our locked up individuals have less than a 6th grade reading level, no matter what ethnicity, okay? So if you haven't gone out here and say, I'm going to take a bullet because we've had X amount of people killed by the state, people don't want to see you as a political prisoner. Now, if you take the bullet, that's fine. You know, Dr. King took the bullet. Malcolm took the bullet, okay? These individuals took bullets. So we can praise what has happened, as long as you get killed. But if you go and you use the bullet, then we're back to the beginning of your forefathers. When they used the bullet to get the ballot, we have all this hypocrisy that goes on. So having worked outside of the prison, I've worked with individuals coming out of prison most of my life. And I see the trauma that is done, whether it be for a minor, what we would call minor, or something major. They all get treated the same. The problem is that people don't realize that over 80% of people that are locked up in prison is not for violent crime. It's for property crimes. Okay? Robberies, certain trespassing, things of that nature. But depending on what your ethnicity is, it's going to determine how many times you're going to end up behind the wall. And of course, you know, if you got some money, you got something to negotiate with. But if you don't have any money, the majority of Americans, you know, they don't want to admit it, but they're like 1 tablespoon away from being in poverty. So what do? You start locking them up. So as the brother was saying about private prisons, we have one left in Indiana. Okay, it's down in southern Indiana. The GEO is still operating. You start making this a commodity by which you can get people paid. Okay? So what makes the difference between a person that's politicized before they go into prison and then those that get politicized while they're in prison? That was a question back in '97 that Sister Bakari flew into Chicago. They had the big conference. and they were trying to have this National Black Conference to determine who are we gonna support, okay? Are we gonna support just those who went in prior for taking a stance, or are we going to look at another door of that? Akili Shakur at the time had just gotten out, and he came out representing political prisoners who were politicized behind the wall. What is politicized behind the wall is what happened with Malcolm, and people don't realize that. You go in with one set of thoughts. You're doing certain things that break the rules, okay? The gambling, the hustling, you're doing all of this, okay? So once you're locked up, very few make that transformation. It becomes a new school for our kids. Did you know that? Because all that time that they've been on the streets, and nobody really just went and snatched them up and let's say, let's talk about this, let's figure out where you're coming from, why are you doing what you're doing? Well, however you reach out to them, okay? Because they take the money from the schools and everybody downs our teachers and you know, everybody's got a new way of doing things, and they're not looking at the communities. They're not looking at assimilations of individuals coming from other places that they have to figure out how they're going to fit in. We have all these things because we're chasing that paper. We chase paper real hard in this country. And every time we chase the paper and think we got it, they raise the prices. You still don't have no paper, okay? Gas used to be 50 cents a gallon. Find me some now. And I'm not gonna snitch on you, but I know you did something illegal. So you got this part going on. So what has happened is there's a transformation that happens in prison. The Muslims were the first ones to really get a good look at how that transformation looked up under Muhammad. And what they were doing, they were going to these young men while they were locked up, and they had these conversations with them. They were asking them, you know, what do you know about your history? What do you know about the world around you? Why do you think that you're stuck where you're at? Well, if you got somebody reading on the 6th grade level, they don't have a real support system because everybody chasing paper for whatever reason, and everybody that goes to prison did not come, you know, off the streets with, you know, garbage bags trying to find something to eat. They're not out trying to hustle to make money to take care of their families. We also get brought into things because of the communities around us. And when you're young, the popularity, you want to fit in. And we all have gone through that stage where you don't want to be ostracized and put on the outside. So you find yourself doing things that, yes, your parents have said not to do. Now, depending on where you come from, sometimes you get slapped on the hand, they send you home, you know, and they say, okay, well, you know, we're gonna send you to the ranch, this little horsey place, and you know, let y'all run through the fields and stuff, and then you can go home. But when you're poor or people of color, that doesn't happen. So you've got individuals who are in prison who have made a transformation mentally. They have taken it upon themselves to get educated. There are older individuals who've been in there who pull those young ones up under their wing and help them get the GEDs. They help them understand what it is that went wrong in their life. They also help them to learn to read dialectically. Understand that just because you can say the words don't mean that you can read. Because a lot of us say a lot of words, and we have no clue of what we're really saying. Thus you get mumble rap. You have no idea what they're saying, but you like that beat. That beat sounds good. Well, the beat inside the wall is a little bit different because they show you all the scary parts of prison, right? Oh, you're going to get molested and they're going to stab you and they're going to do all these things. Yes, those things happen in there and out here too. Okay? So it just depends on where your mind is at and what you're into. And I was raised, you can't save everybody, but those that you can save, you go to the wall for. Okay? So when you've got a person that's inside and they have now had a transformation of thinking, I think in the Christian religion, you have, what's that song? You changed my name, because when they change your name, you've changed your thinking. You have changed the way you see the world. You have changed the way that you do things. So they go through a transformation in there too. There are so many brothers that are locked up that have managed to get GEDs. Some are trying to get higher education. Some have life sentences and they're still trying to develop. They're still trying to develop themselves. There's a First Nation person, Leonard Peltier. He's 18 years old. He's been in jail for 50 years. He went in because he was charged with a killing that took place amongst more than just him on the Indian reservation. Okay, the government went in, they wanted the land, they were going to force them off. It became a battle. I think it was 2 officers got killed, and he was one of the ones that got charged in that whole thing. This man's been locked up for 50 years. At what point do you age out? If the rule is that you to a certain age, you're too old to commit a crime anyway, where's that compassion, that forgiveness, that love? Why don't we have any of this in the land of plenty? We don't have that. When we see young people who are trying their best, okay, to educate themselves, and educating yourself in prison is harder than educating yourself out here on the streets, even though they consider you a captive audience on some levels, because you can't even get the books, okay? Every book has to come from a book company revenue, okay? The libraries, the books have to come from the book company, then they can set up a library. But there's only so much room for a library. Okay, it's not like like the state is ordering books. Oh, these will be good, and we're gonna put this here. It doesn't work that way. People have to donate to get books in. Okay? Well, here's the thing. If you've got somebody, a support system out here, okay, that sends you a book, it still has to come from a book company that's making some money off of it. Okay, you can't send used books. Okay, you can't say, oh, I got these books I've been sitting around for like forever, and I just want to get rid of them. It doesn't work that way. They have to come from a book company. Okay? Things have changed so much because our society has changed. You can't even write a letter, okay, unless there's a certain way that you have to write the letter. All letters are copied. They're read, they're copied, then they send you a copy of the letter. Okay? Everybody don't have the luxury of being able to call home and collect, because everybody don't have money at home to be able to collect calls. Now you're cut off again. Not to talk about your psychological effects that you go through when you're locked up. Okay? So when I worked in a prison, it was always them against us. And no matter how much good intention you have of being in the prison, you get drawn into them versus us. You can't treat people like humans. You have to treat people as if they're going to kill you at any given time. And that's not true. People are still human. And a lot of times when you hear about violence inside of prisons, it's because of something that the guards that work there have perpetuated up front. Okay, they used to have the sitting duck thing out in California. They would let different rivaling groups from the streets out in the yard together, and they would yell one time, drop. You don't drop, they gave them permission to shoot. And they take bets on who would hit who. These things happen, these things are real. You've got individuals, George Jackson, while he's in there, people don't talk about him. And as our political prisoners get older, we're not passing down that knowledge of what they've done, that transformation that has taken place. You're not the same person you were at 12. Tell me one person that is. Tell me you're the same person you were at 18. As life goes on, you start to see things. You're supposed to grow wisdom, but sometimes that wisdom gets stilted because of the things that's going on around you. So you've got individuals who are in there putting their lives on the line in order to be able to educate those that look like them. Okay, they are putting these groups together to have books bought and sent in. They are putting groups together to have people donate monies so that individuals can have money to buy a commissary. Because everything in there, outside of what they feed you, and I think they spend something like $26,000 to $30,000 a year to hold a person in jail. And you haven't killed anybody. Wouldn't it be better to give that person that $30-something thousand a year and help them get acclimated to being out here doing the services that they're going to need to be a solid citizen that can give back something instead of steadily taking? But we don't advocate for that. And so that's where out here, we don't have enough advocacy. Because there's too much shame about saying, I have somebody that's locked up. My husband's locked up, he's been gone 23 years. I don't keep it a secret, okay? Because he puts his life on the line every time he walks out of his cell. Because he's taught people how to fight for your rights. And you don't have to always put a shank in somebody's hand to do it. You teach them how to use that pen. Something that we don't even use out here. We never demand from our politicians nothing. They ask one thing of us whenever the voting cycle comes around. Will you vote for me? Very few of us say, what are you gonna give me in return? Okay, what can I count on you for? Let me write this down, because you said this, that, and this other on this day, so I'm gonna hold you to it. We don't do that. We say, oh, I like the way they look, or they gonna give me a stimulus check, or, PPE loans. We look at things like that. And every day, more and more people are falling between the cracks. And so you have this industrial prison complex that's going on. Michelle Alexander talked about the prison pipeline, school to prison pipeline. Oh, that was a great seller. She made great money off of that. Everybody that read it, what did you do afterwards? Put it on the shelf. That was a good book. When did you say, you know what, there's something that I need to do? Be it to sit down with a neighborhood kid and say, let me help you read. We always are so busy. And everybody love the kids. I just love the kids. I just want to help the kids. No, you don't. You just want to have some power over the kids because you have no power in your own life. And here's a group of people that you can tell what to do, and you can get that feeling of respect. But nobody is telling you that if you read certain books, you might wind up in a hole 6 by 6. 6 feet. If you go in your bathroom, it's almost like going into a prison cell. If you've never been in a prison cell, go stand in your bathroom. Try and be in there 24 hours. Tell me how that's going to work for you. Tell me how with this one light on right here, how can you sleep when it's on 24 hours, sensory deprivation? How are you going to sleep when people with real mental issues are screaming and screaming all night long? There's never any silence. Tell me how that's going to happen. How does your mind adjust to the fact that because people do have mental issues, it's not being taken care of? And then if it's a loved one, how do you feel if you thought nobody in there had a voice to even speak out? And if they're afraid to? And yet there's individuals that are in there now that take that responsibility. Hey, this is not right. Of course they get punished for it, okay? My husband spent 13 years in solitary confinement. Okay, came out of his cell about 3 hours every day at the most. That's it. You have no physical touch, nothing. If you get a chance to see that person, you're going through a glass wall. There is no physical nothing. And that goes on day in, day out, day in, day out. Your mind starts playing tricks on you. Okay? Your senses start to go different ways. And if you don't have anything to put into your head to offset that, you can develop mental illness while you're locked up. In Indiana, they were supposed to be building this facility that if a person has mental illness, they're to be housed differently because they're supposed to get real treatment. You get the bare minimum treatment. Because number one, you don't have adequate doctors and counselors enough to be able to service all these individuals. And the drugs you give them makes them into zombies. You're not dealing with the problem. But if I give you drugs, that's cool. But if you have an out date and you done got hooked on drugs, you're coming back out here. Now you are an addict. What you gonna do? Because now everybody who were following the rules and I've been a good person, I came from the womb with wings on my feet and all of this, all of a sudden, you're a victim. Because that has not been taken care of adequately. And they're a slave of the state. They might make 25 cents an hour for a job if they work all day. They do the regular 8-hour shifts and you get 25 to 35 cents an hour. Some company is making money off of that. Okay? And we say nothing. We say nothing at all. Oh, we love people. We think that people should have a chance. And yet, we don't even support the ones that's in there that's trying to look out for those that are younger than them to make sure that they can get some kind of help. And unless you've seen the inside of a prison, it's hard to fathom. That to me is the nightmare. You've got kids in there. I worked in a prison where they had a 13-year-old child locked up in an adult facility. He's on lockdown for his own safety, but he was 13 years old. And so here's a child that nowhere near finished mentally developing. All he knows is prison. When he gets out, what do you think we're gonna be dealing with? 13, because you're in survival mode. I just wanna survive. And so I've got to watch everything and everybody because they don't allow you to develop groups that you can actually have a relationship with, that's a support relationship. They try and tear that down. In Indiana, it's very hard for Black authors to get books in prison. To get those books in prison, anything that they think would, it becomes unsettling, it makes for a dangerous environment, is what they say. You might read something and think that, oh, I've learned this and now I want to write it. But they will give you trash books all day long. You can read junk all day long. They don't have any problems with that. Newspapers that says anything other than what the US says is acceptable for staying on that line, you're not allowed to read anything that's different from that because now you're beginning to think. And when you think, you become dangerous. Why? Because you don't see the world the same way they want you to see the world. A lot of times, we've been brainwashed. We really have. And we think that all these people look so terrible and this is ridiculous. And because at a certain point, like the beginning of the 2000s, they had a big drop in the number of individuals that were locked up. See, that crime bill of
97?
huh?
97?
The one that, what's her name's husband? Clinton. Okay, you all remember that crime bill? Remember when they came out and even apologized for it? And America's great to apologize. We apologize for all kinds of stuff. We won't do nothing about it. Oh, I'm so sorry. That was horrible. It affected people of color more so than it did anybody else. It was locking them up at record numbers. We sorry. And then move on. But when you're sorry, something's supposed to change.
Right.
Yep.
What did we ask to change? We have not asked them to change not one iota. Not nothing. Okay, they said they were sorry. Oh, Hillary, I know it was just your husband, but we really appreciate you saying you're sorry. Sorry does not change the generational damage that has happened. And when we do find a way to educate those behind the wall, because out here you have the freedom to look up information. You have the freedom to use dialectics, okay, to see if this makes sense to you. If it was 17 something, it's okay to pick up the bullet. In 2024, unless you are afraid for your life or standing your ground, okay? You step this chair right here up, I'll stand my ground. They can find a way to turn you loose. We're not even looking ahead of what's going on. Have you all noticed that people in prison now, life used to be 20 years, okay? Life now is basically life.
Wow.
There is no forgiveness. I don't care how sick you get. Those days, they've got individuals who are dying in prison and they've lost parents, they've lost siblings, they've lost spouses, they've lost children, they have illnesses. We pay so much in providing so-called medical for individuals who are 70, 75 years old. 70, all in there. We spend so much money, tax money. But we won't take care of these kids before they get behind the walls, so they end up in a situation like that. We don't care. All we try to figure out is where's my next dollar coming from. Okay? Somebody needs to give me $1. Okay? And I'm coming back and help you. I'm gonna give you a dime when I get this dollar. Okay? But I'm not gonna see you, right? How many times have you passed people on the street, right up here on Ridge Road, and you see them, and they're out with signs, and you say, all they want to do is go get drunk. You get drunk, smoke weed, you overeat, but you can't stop and give them a dime. Because, oh, I don't support that. You support everything else. They come and take your children, undereducate them, throw them in jail. They beat the heck out of them. Got that fear going for that, because maybe that'll keep them in line. When it doesn't, you throw them in jail and you give them extended sentences. Oh, and by the way, the state is now acting like the federal government because you're doing like 85% of your time. Okay? And if you all didn't keep up with Clarence Thomas says you should only get one bite of the apple. Okay? And there are people that are actually locked up and they're innocent. And they got several programs that's proving it. Do we ever get with those programs and say, here's my dime to you? Because you are actually figuring this out. No, we don't. And we shake our heads, oh, this is so bad. This is so sad. Oh, I hate what they're doing. And you go right up to the McDonald's or go to the store, whatever, toss them back, up and smoke, no, nothing. But see how sad it is. But this is our future that we're looking at. And those individuals that are in there, people do have transformations of minds while they're locked down. It's sad that's where they have to get it at. Because there's nothing else to do but to get with somebody that's going to help you if you're in that mindset to understand this madness that you live up under. How can you have a victimless crime and give somebody 60 years? Nobody died. Nobody in the hospital. Okay? Madness. Damage a police vehicle. My husband damaged a police vehicle. 63 years. Okay? Behind the mental state that he was in when his son was murdered. And he went to the police and they thought it was a joke. He saw his son laying on the street, bleeding out. And they wouldn't let him close to him. And so people don't understand how this goes. Because people that work in prison and they get an opportunity, they go work for police department as soon as they get in because it's more money. Okay? And there's not no annual mental health evaluation for people that work in prisons. There isn't. As long as you can sign your name, you can read and say the words, and they don't have any paperwork when you saying that you have broken the law, you can get into prison and work. So now you've got mentally ill people working with people that are mentally ill, and everybody's got this low self-esteem thing going. So everybody got to be the big hen's egg, okay? I'm so-and-so. And there is nothing that we do to demand that even people that work in these environments, they need mental health days. They need to actually have someone talking to them. Because they're locked up 12 hours a day. Those are 12-hour shifts. So they're an inmate for 12 hours. So it's now us versus them, which is a game mentality. Okay? You either do it my way, and if you say no, then I'm going to find ways of retaliating. As young people start to read and understand what they're reading, and understand the history of how they even got there, there's a lot of anger that comes out of it. Lock you up and see how angry you get, and you didn't do nothing. When I got locked up, I was a nutcase. I was mad with everybody. But I had a very strong, solid support group. So it made a big difference. Everybody doesn't have that. And so when you see things, and yellow journalism is alive and doing well. And it's always against poor people and people of color. Okay, all the good things. Those two young ladies that solved that mathematical equation that happened to be sisters. It should have been on every news thing for like about a month. They had this one thing, Newsbreak had it, and it was on a couple of channels. That's it. Nothing. This little boy who's like, I think he's 8 years old, he speaks all these different languages. You don't hear about these things. The only thing you hear is those scare tactics. They're gonna kill you. Why do they call our city Scary Gary? When if you look around and you really dig into what happens in all the areas that are not melanin enhanced as we are, They don't put it in the papers. They hold it out because you want people to come and buy houses in those neighborhoods. And if they think they're unsafe, they won't come. Okay? So you label someplace, oh, you don't want to go there. You've never been there. They ain't never been there. I have read things online from people who have never seen Gary, not one day in their life. And they have so much to say about it. And they don't realize there are good people in Gary. Okay? There are people who really do care. But I think part of the problem that we have is that we don't interact with each other. Because everybody want to be the leader. I gotta be the one in control. I gotta tell everybody how to do it. And it don't work that way. We have to start taking a closer look at what we are putting out for our kids, and we wonder why they're so angry. And the hypocrisy that they have learned early, because they have technology. They can see it everywhere. Why should I try? And you try it and nothing happened for you. What you got out of it? Oh, that's right, you got a car. But when it breaks down, you don't have that extended warranty, that was extra money. Or you got a purse you paid $500 for, but you ain't got 50 cents to put in it. But you can wear it. And they're looking for a meaning to life. Okay, these youngsters that are going into prison, if we didn't have people in there that's putting their lives on the line to make sure that these individuals are introduced to things that help explain how this world works. Because everybody thinks that they are the victim. Everybody is a victim. Civil rights say everybody's a victim. You start off because it was black people. Now everybody got a grant. And everybody get paid but black people. Okay? They ain't gave us nothing back here. Okay, but they're giving everybody else a little something over here, give you a little something over here. And what do? Take away more education and make us the boogeyman. Okay, they're playing checkers, we playing chess. No, backwards. We're playing checkers, they're playing chess. Because it's a different mindset when you play checkers. We're not looking for solution-oriented orientations. We are not looking, what can we do as a group? Come together and stop fighting over petty stuff. Because you're gonna die, you can't take none of this stuff with you. All of them. You don't even know what the folks you leave it to is going to do with your stuff. Because it's just stuff. But when you look around and you say, oh, these are terrible people that are locked up, they are doing it. No, go back and look at your statistics, read for yourself. The majority of people in prison are in there for non-victim crimes. They have not killed anybody, nobody's walking around maimed, but they put those out on the front. And so those that are property damaged, okay, what is it, trespassing, or you steal something, depending on where you're at and the color of your skin depends on how much time you're going to get. The state is now acting like the feds. Did y'all know that? You can do a state crime and you can be transferred all over this country without your permission. Okay? You did a crime in the state of Indiana, but you out in Colorado. Make that make sense? Why? Oh, because you've been determined as somebody that is dangerous because you're thinking and you're educating others. And when they feel like that is a threat to what they're putting down, they will move you out. They will do it with a quickness. And these are state crimes, these are not federal. And we don't even know that. People do not know that. Depending on what your politics are while you're locked up, you can wind up so far away from your folks, you think that you didn't have none. You just came up out the dirt, I guess. And nobody says anything. Nobody is going to our politicians saying, wait a minute, why are we doing this? Why are they use this money to transport people all across the country? They committed their crime right here. They don't get asked that. And everybody wants to, and let me just say this, those ministries that go into the prisons to sing songs and read scriptures and holidays, they bring us some cookies. That's it. You're not asking, how's your family? Is there something I can do for your family? Can I get you in contact with somebody that can help you? No, none of that. We do feel-good religion. I feel good. I did something nice today. I spoke to somebody that was locked up. But you're not going to do anything for them or for those children. And the children are the ones that suffer the most. I was teaching in a middle school, and I had a young lady come in, and she was so upset. Her dad was locked up. And even locked up, She said, he calls me all the time. He wants to tell me what to do with my life, and this, that, and the other. And I'm tired of him telling me what I can do and what I can't do. That's your dad. At least he cares. How about that one? And while you're being made to feel ashamed, you're not responsible for whatever got him in there. But you are suffering from the outcome. Because you're angry, you're acting out, you're telling everybody your business. They're going to use it against you at some point. You know? And we just go right along as educators. You know, we don't, oh, you know, so-and-so just had an outburst, not realizing what that outburst means. When you've got families who have family members that you don't even talk about. How many of you all ever gone to a family gathering and, you know, everybody, hey, how you doing, this, that, and the other, and everybody's scared to ask about the one that's locked up? Okay? They want to skip over that like the person doesn't exist anymore. But poof, one day he pops back up. Oh, I was missing you, and I thought about you, and I prayed for you, and I ain't done nothing for you. I did not say I'll take a collect call. I did not say I'll go on JPay and put stamps on there so you can at least write out. Okay. Because that's shame that it's attached to. And yet, I've seen people come out, male and female, come out, they finish off their college degrees, doing amazing work, super intelligent. You could not sit down with them and not to be able to tell that they were ever locked up. And you can never debate them because they know their history. We don't know history in this country. We only know what people allow us to see because we lost the ability to be interested in researching. People say, oh, so I heard that. Where you hear it from? Well, somebody said, who was somebody? Well, I don't know, it was on TikTok. Those are your sources now. If they say it that way, y'all good. So, I've given you some background. I'm telling you that if you go to, let me see, I think it's called Jericho. Help me, Kwame. It is, I'll tell you all.
The Jericho Movement.
Yeah, if you are JerichoMovement.com. And there's a slash and you'll see prisoners. And you'll see a list of people who went in prior for what they did trying to get the freedom out here. You know, and it's strange because money runs the world, right? If you're a person of color and you rob a bank because you're with a group and you all are trying to fund some programs, everybody wants you to go to jail for life. Okay? They rob you every day, you never say a word. You get robbed every day. You pay taxes on your work salary. Okay? Wherever you work at, we wage slaves. Capitalism got it down to a science. We pay that first tax, then you're gonna pay a state tax. Oh, and then when you have what's left over, you're gonna go shopping and pay some more tax. Make it make sense. Now that's money that should be yours, right?
Right.
But then it's more your money. So like 40% goes to state and federal taxes, and then when you go to the grocery store, anything besides food, or you go to the store, anything besides food, you're paying other taxes on. You're paying almost 50% of the salary that you've made back in taxes. You're giving it back. Nobody says anything. You just happy you got more than Jane over there. Jane got 10, I got 20. It makes me better than Jane. Our children see this hypocrisy. We don't teach them what it means to be a prisoner for your beliefs. Because if you haven't found it, I don't know who said it, it wasn't me. If you haven't found anything to stand for, you lay down for anything. Anything that comes along, the newest thing that comes along, you lay on hand for it. Why is that? And why do you let them make us feel like ours, these people belong to us, are the worst of the worst, but you love Paul? Make me understand that. Paul alone killed, I'm not gonna say what folks he killed, but he killed that whole set of people. Did anybody say anything? When they read in their little books, do they say he was a horrible person? But we can judge, right? Even when a person has put forth everything they've got and puts their freedoms on the line, and they're being transported all over the country, and they're in solitary confinement 23, 24 hours a day in a 6x6. Anybody know anybody who's in there? In that condition? It's a bunch of them in there. Have you ever looked it up to see? Because it doesn't concern me. That's not something that I want to do. But then I wonder when my kids are TikToking and seeing all these different things and they're getting their information from somewhere else. Because we don't like teachers. We just hate teachers. You know, they're the worst people in the world. Which they do, you know, reinforce the general rules, but you gotta have a basis to start from somewhere. And if your kids are spending 40 hours or more a week with somebody else teaching them, you're not doing that much at home because you only get about 4 hours of them being woke before it's time to go to bed. They're educating your children, but you don't support those people. You don't support anybody that's gonna give you knowledge. So when they end up in prison and they get knowledge, you say, here they go talking that prison stuff again. I'm so tired of hearing about. But these are the people that are trying to tell you what's happening in your community. When you don't find nobody that your kids will listen to, ask one of them. I bet you they get their attention. Those that have put in that work, those that have read those books, those that have took them hits for somebody else, not for themselves. Because everybody can just go in there and sit quietly and do their time and hope that by the grace of the creator or the good tooth fairy, somebody, they can get out. But people put their lives on the line behind that wall. They really do. And they're fighting that our people can be educated. If it's call it a captive audience if you want to, but there's knowledge when you've got a person's attention that they can learn. But they need support, and we don't support them. We don't. So you can ask me anything, you can tell me, share a story with me, because I'm telling you, from Illinois to Indiana, I have been in a whole lot of different prisons, okay, working with individuals who are locked up. And some are so intelligent, and they got parole violation, okay? They got a parole violation, so they got to go back and finish off 10 more years, okay? And does anybody ever ask our prosecutors, why do we prosecute certain people and we don't prosecute others? Anybody ever ask that? Because they're the ones that decide which cases go to court. They're the ones that can ask for how much time that person's going to end up doing. We don't do that. We just read it in the paper. So-and-so got X amount of time. Who are you kidding? And we say nothing else. These are people that represent you. Why do you let them get away with it? Right here, there's so many things happening in this state alone that people are getting caught up, but they got some money. They don't look like us. They stay in a better house. They get a chance to get I'm sorry, like the Clintons, with their rule. But everybody else got to go in and do some time. I read a blog where a lady says, I know my husband is a correctional officer. I've seen the terrible things that has happened in the prison. He comes home and tells me about it. But if we were to correct that problem and stop locking people up, how am I going to feed my family? Because that's where he gets his money from. Did you know that? Go and check if y'all with jobs and stocks and all this stuff and your insurances. Ask them, are they connected to the prison stock? And see how much money that your money is going to hold people in jail. You got a Supreme Court justice whose wife was involved in the insurrection. Did she go to jail? Those that went, some of those are going to jail and still going, right? Why they don't say anything about that? What's her name? The cook. She get the inside trading for the stock, Martha Stewart. She did, I think about maybe 18 months. She didn't lose her money. We lose everything. And then we look at each other with disgust. We don't say, you know what, I know you've been through something, let me help you. Or here's a group that's working with people who have gone through something. Let me see what I can do. All we do is shake our head and look down on somebody else and say, well, so-and-so is good because they haven't got caught yet. It's just a matter of when. Okay, so when y'all filing y'all's taxes come January, you might wanna go ahead and put the truth down about how much deductions you got. Because things are changing, okay? And then when it happens to you, then you want everybody to come out the woodwork. How many of you all know females that's been to prison? How many of you all have ever reached out to help females? Because you'll find groups everywhere that'll go for the guys. What do we do for our females? Okay? And we've got females that's out here, they have to hide. They have to try and melt into society and you can't say or ask anything. And that anger comes out and then you're gonna blame that person. They've been failed on so many levels already. So I'm just asking, with all this goodness that we have in our hearts and all this good intention, and we feel all these things, when are we going to do something about it? Okay, I think, what was it, Michelle Obama said, join something. Join something. Find something to join to make a difference. Oh, and go back to reading books. Okay? If you read, it'll make you want to join something. It'll make you want to do something different. But as long as you're being entertained, you're going to continue with this and it's going to get worse. Because we're raising hostile children. Our children are angry. And they have a good reason to be angry. Because how do you live 20-something years and you don't know your history and you don't find out about it until you get locked up? I know folks that's not locked up, have never been locked up, and they're shocked when they hear certain things about their own history. How does that happen? Oh, and by the way, they got a diploma. But they've never heard it. They didn't know. And now they're angry. And if they're angry with kids, that kids catch the blunt of the anger. Everybody mad. Why don't we just calm down, stop being mad and read? And then find somebody else is reading the same thing. And then ask them, hey, can we get together, read, and figure out what we can do about this situation? Instead of waiting until our children get in prison and then other individuals who could have been out of prison, had they decided it was all about them. Instead of those individuals that's coming in that they're saying, this is not right. And we have to bring it to the attention of the public. And if you think I'm lying, look it up for yourself. Look at the rule books for each of the prisons. And in Indiana, the rule books are not the same in every prison. Each one has a different set of rules. They decide, and they can change like that. And so they start them off when they put them in juvenile detention centers. You start there, and then you start graduating them, graduating till you get to the point where you have them in prison. Okay, they're starting now to track our children from daycare. Which ones are going to be more likely to end up in prison? Who's going to be, you know, they had these different diplomas they was trying to give out? I was confused. I didn't even know how many diplomas was out there. Now they're going back to want to give back 2 diplomas. You're tracking children. And so for those kids who seem to have a little bit more difficulty in learning, you've already written them off. And they can feel it and they're going to act in regards to that. And those that you think are going to be able to go to college, you'll give them a little bit more attention. Then you got those in the middle. They might get quasi jobs, you know, but if they don't master a skill that nobody else can do, they're going to be unemployed one day too. And when you're desperate, a lot of things that you do, when you're desperate, when you're angry, when you have no support whatsoever, even having never been to prison, you have no support, nobody to talk to. You can cross that line real quickly. I'm just saying, you know, make it make sense. Any questions? Yes, sir.
Do you think that, especially among Black people in the United States and indigenous people, that for some of us, as far as education towards our youth, do you think it's intentional that we don't keep some of this history? Because it feels like, just from what I've seen, that history is hidden from the youth in order for them to better conform with the white majority and society as a whole in the United States.
Let me just say this, and it's not my saying either. If you wanna hide something, put it in the book. And you know not because you don't want to know. See, when something sparks a spark, you got a sparkler, you see them little things that jump off, but they have that one thing going down the middle. When you find out something that you didn't know, and you say, you know what, let me look into this. And you're gonna keep reading, and something else is gonna be in there that's gonna make you wanna look even further at that. You have to want to know. And if you're not in a situation where you can have the luxury of sitting still and being able to actually read and bounce it off with people, because maybe you don't learn well in an environment with students, with a bunch of people, because you're afraid of people calling you stupid, you know, whatever. But as a black people, this is just my opinion. Okay, we have allowed ourselves to be rocked to sleep. Okay, and the worst thing that to me that I see is 40 and 50-year-old people still playing video games. They would rather play video games and be entertained. We would rather keep up with the scores for the basketball and the football than to open up a book and say, what are they getting ready to do to us today or tomorrow? We play checkers, they play chess. Because it's a mind game. And so we've been failed for, since public schools stopped being integrated or started being integrated. When they were segregated, you had a lot more history that was being discussed. And they would tell you why it was important that you do this. And we had people that were really educated themselves. But I can't give you what I don't have. Oh, and by the way, all the things the state say that I can teach you, I can only teach you what they allow me to teach you. That's why they're taking all the books. How many of you all buying books for Christmas? Those are my gifts. How many of y'all gonna be really happy if somebody give you a book for Christmas? Because see, you all are the exception. Because people are looking for iPhones, they're looking for games, they're looking for game systems, they're still looking for gym shoes, you're looking for items of clothing. Because our children see what we value. And they value what we value. And so if I say you wear Nikes, when I get 16 and can't afford the Nikes, I'm going to say those Nikes, I want them because. That's all you always told me that. And Nikes are a sign that you have arrived. Okay? Or whatever it is, but we don't stop and think about that. We don't look into it. We are not the ones that are saying the things that they are telling you is a lie. All you gotta do is look it up. Look it up. Stop reading the Post Tribune or whatever. Do some research on the sources that's giving you the information. And stop saying, somebody told me, I heard, I think, I was told. Look it for yourself. Yes, sir.
I know I just asked a question, but this is kind of a follow-up. Do you think that our people being lulled to sleep is a consequence of fear-based intimidation by the state? Because, I mean, we all know, like the Black Liberation Movement, we all know about the steps that people like Fred Hampton, et cetera, put toward unification of the classes. And I feel like there are some people that do know, but they refuse to say it out loud for fear of retaliation.
Fear, you want to answer? Fear is something they've always used against us. Fear and distrust, okay? We look around and we say, they don't look like us, they don't dress like us. The state say be scared of them. They don't think like the state told us to think. And we're always afraid. We look at who's gotten killed while trying to lead the movement. Now you got those that want to be Hollywood stars and everybody want to be, hey, I'm the man, come to me. But that's not what it's about. Because if you really want to know your history, open that book. So that if somebody looks like me is lying to you, or somebody else that looks like they're in a military uniform is lying to you, you know for yourself. But you gotta give people a chance. You can't judge them by what you just see on the outside.
Right.
Okay, what's up here is what counts. And a lot of us don't use it. We want somebody else to tell us, so if it goes wrong, we can blame them. And we've lived our lives that way because we've been trained to. And the biggest thing they were able to do is to sow distrust on Black people being able to think. We're not ever given credit for being brilliant. And we know what we want, but we scared that capitalism is all we know. If we don't have capitalism, who's going to tell us what to do? Who's gonna be in charge? And you know, everybody wanna be in charge. Everybody wanna be the big hand's head. And you can't lead if people don't follow. And I can't follow you if you're not giving me something that's reasonable, something that makes sense. You can't scare me into following you. You have to give me a reason to want to follow you because I believe that you know what you're talking about.
I had a question and a comment. Did I miss you talking about the $1.3 billion institution? But did you talk about how they lease people? Because I'm thinking to myself, what's the return on $1.3 billion? They lease out people from state to state, and they move them away. But even though I said, what's a $1.3 billion return? And we're only 45 minutes from Westville.
Because
That's the first thing.
okay.
And I know that they lease out. So I'm a daughter of a father I lost my father to the incarceration due to a racial murder of his brother. And so I'm a daughter who didn't have a father. And we had to take trips in the summer to go see him and my uncle. So first I was upset because I had to spend my summers going to all these, I saw federal and state prisons. I remember when they didn't wear clothes, so they went to uniforms. I remember when you could take in things, you just sit and touch them till you behind. I went through that from 9 years old up until 3 years ago. He was back and forth in jail. So I say that to say he was all over. He was everywhere. Denver, and he got caught in Grand Rapids, but he was everywhere, all over the country. He said, I've seen the country, not by the way I wanted to see it, but I've seen the country. So that's the first thing, how they lease people out from state to state.
Okay, that leasing is it's a partnership. They'll send somebody in their place, okay? So that's part of it, that big prison they're building. They're closing up Indiana State, which holds 2,000 something. They're gonna move them all into one. It's going to be, you don't have as much room and for moving around. They're bringing in technology, so you don't have to have as many guards to be able to keep control over people, okay? And so that in itself, the public is not getting any turnaround because they can block up more people off the street that they made you scared of because you don't go and talk to them and find out, hey, what's really going on while we're doing this? And to the young man's thing, that fear factor, we have been disappointed by so many people who have been carpetbaggers, wolves in sheep's clothing. They come and tell us stuff, okay, that we do X, Y, and Z, and they playing both sides against the middle. I got my foot over here in the game, but I'm telling you that, you need to follow me to do this, that, and the other. And you who are like, I'm looking for something that seems solid. But that's not solid because all you're doing is setting up the trap for them to be able to lock some more people up. And they're giving them more and more time. That's the term, okay? Because those taxes that they're taking, that money that they are taking off those, have y'all seen what commissary lists look like lately?
Yeah.
Okay, some of that stuff costs more than what it costs out here. What, ramen noodles? I hate ramen noodles. But ramen noodles cost like almost $1 behind the wall, and the grocery store like 39 cents. You are pimping poor people, and we say nothing about it. When it's a group gotten together, there was a group at one time that got together to complain about the phone calls, the cost of the phone calls, okay? They made for a minute, now you can, they brought them down a little bit, but you got so many more people in there, so you're making that much more money. Everything is connected. Everything is connected, and I guarantee you, they're not gonna bite off their nose to spite their face. GEO has prisons, even when they get put out of one state's prison, they can go to another one. We got a private prison in the state of Indiana. Nobody has said anything, okay? We got youth that are being terrorized in the juvenile system. Nobody says anything. And when they tell you, oh, they're lying, they're just a bad kid. They're not bad kids. They might have had some bad parenting or bad leadership, but given a chance to speak with the right people, they can be brought around. Okay? It's not by chance that the average person locked up reads on a 6th grade level. 85% do not have that capability. Where is this coming from? If it's not by design.
New age chattel slave.
If they're not throwing out all these things, your child gotta learn this, your child gotta learn that. When does your child have a chance to explore and use their brain to explore things they're interested in? Because you're telling them all day long, stay on that line. Don't step outside that line. Don't think. I didn't ask you to think. I taught college classes, and I will ask a student on a certain day, we're going to get your opinion on your thought processes. What do you think? They look at me like I'm crazy. You're allowed to think now. We've discussed this. What do you think? I don't know. Nobody's ever asked us what we think. They just asked us, did we read? And we're supposed to recite back what it is that the book said. How can you create when you can't think? How can you make something new? How can you see a new system that can happen outside of just what capitalism tells you? Work hard, stay on the line, I'm gonna give you some crumbs. Okay? And anybody who don't look like you is stealing your crumbs. Okay? Instead of anybody who don't look like us, hey, let's all come to the table, let's talk about it. Because we can get, I got billionaires. Billionaires! They can't spend all their money in a lifetime. They ain't giving you none. And they get mad if you try and take it. But don't forget, your founding fathers took theirs, didn't they? They didn't go to jail. They used the bullet. The first time you pick up the bullet, you going to jail if they don't kill you on the spot. Yes, sir.
Yes, so talked a lot about education and people being aware of what's going on, or just, so along with the education, what other things do you think we can do to put some, to deal with this issue of this mass incarceration and this, what other thing,
Remember I said, join something? Find like-minded people who are interested in finding the answers to what you're interested in. Talk. We don't talk to each other, we talk at each other. We don't ask each other, what do you think, with respect? I really want to hear what you're thinking, because there's more than one way to get to Broadway, okay? They may have something that we can do, but you can't rely on just one person or 5 people to tell you everything in your life. You've got to start using your brain as a muscle. If you don't use it, you will lose it. It's like anything else with your body. Anything that you don't use is going to die. And you're the walking dead. We got so many walking dead. To be able to ask what to do, ask what can I do? How about that one? Just ask somebody, what can I do? Okay? So and so is going on, and I saw this, what can I do? You might be surprised, they might say, you know what, come with me, I got something that you can do. But we don't even do that. All we want to do is be seen. And we want people, and I know everybody wants to be respected. Being respected is a drug. Okay? You want to get that feeling. People respect me when I walk around. So they get in your pockets. And that's what they tell us to think about each other. Why can't I respect you? Because I can see not only what you're putting out of your mind, and your heart is dictating what your mind is putting out, what your mouth is going to spit at me. See, I can feel BS. I can feel it. You can too. Everybody knows they being BS. But when somebody comes at you with truth and love, you can't fight that. And if you want to fight it, get a book and go look it up and see if it's true. That's all. Read. And if you don't know how to read and you have a problem reading, ask somebody, can you help me learn to read? How do I use dialectics to make a change in the life that I'm living, the world around me, and in my community? Don't wait for somebody to keep telling you the answers. We went through school cheating. This is what it's got us. Okay? The shortcut. That was a shortcut. I was good. I knew how to do this, that, and other. And where are you at now? And then what is your ultimate goal? Is it to be rich? Because see, them brothers behind the wall right now that's taking these hits, their goal is not to be rich. Their goal was to get out, but they can't even get out because they have so much compassion for those that's in there with them. Those sisters, they keep putting their lives on the line trying to educate. So that you have numbers of people, so that you have something to work with. Because everybody gonna get old, I'm telling you, anybody run as fast. Your sight's not gonna be that good. You can have all the guns in the world, they gonna stop the bullets. You ain't got no money to buy them. But all of this, okay, the mightiest tool, the mightiest weapon in the world is your brain. Okay? They can't stop you from thinking. They can't stop you from learning. And when you learn, you put that into motion. You build nations with knowledge. Stop asking for the cheat sheet. That cheat sheet, it gets old. I knew a professor that used the same lesson plan for 30 years. He never changed the syllabus. One day, where we worked at, he changed it. Everybody had a cheat sheet. Everybody flunked. And the word was out. He'd been using the same thing for 30 years. And he just decided we're gonna do something different. What are you gonna do different? Join something. And when you join, do your homework. Don't just follow people because you like them. Follow them because they're actually doing something. They're putting in some work. Something is coming out of it. And don't be afraid, because chances are the majority of us are never gonna be millionaires. Okay? But we can be millionaires in the terms of leaving a wealth of knowledge, so you don't have to ask, where did it go wrong? Did they scare us into it? Because you can't be scared when you know what the game is. Learn to play chess. Chess is cool at a certain age point, but at some point you gotta learn to play chess. Because this system is playing chess with us. And they put that group against that group, against that group, male against female, adults against children. It's all by design. And it's gonna keep the prisons full. Always. Because we're not going out getting our children and pulling them in and giving them something to hope and to dream of. A person without a dream is a walking dead. If you're not dreaming about a better life, you're not gonna know anything about it. If you can't see an outcome, see, I don't care what you decide to build, okay? You gotta see what the outcome you're trying to get to is. But if you're just stumbling around saying, I'll just see what happens if we go along, nothing happens. 10 steps forward, 9 steps back. Questions? Comments? Welcome to those that came in a little later. Happy to see you here. Words of wisdom. Whatever you got, all y'all, everybody in here. Yes, sir.
Yeah, excuse me, sis, I'm sorry for coming late.
That's okay.
The kind brother had gave us a card and said he was at a lecture, so we just want to come through, check it out, see the information.
Oh, did I pass? I had a cheat sheet.
Absolutely.
And I saw one of you brothers came in, again, I saw you a while ago, I was telling you about the program. So this is part of our Malcolm X lecture. This 100th anniversary of his birth is May 19, 2025. And Sister Akili has been talking about prison industrial complex and our political prisoners. And so you guys heard some of what you had to share, but I wanted to, I went to the Jericho Movement page, and I wanted to go over, say some of the names, some of our political prisoners who are still locked up. A lot of them have transitioned, a lot of them have gotten out, but a lot of them are still locked up. And this whole, again, most prisoners, like when Malcolm, when Malcolm went to jail, he was at a lecture, you guys may have heard it before, he was talking about him being in jail. He said, y'all look shocked or something. He said, don't be surprised I've been in jail. I'm paraphrasing. He said, if you were born in America, you were born in jail. So that's we said that back then. But I want to name a few of them. Brother Mumi Abu Jamal, Jamil Abdullah Alameen, formerly known as H. Rap Brown, Abdul Aziz.
As you ask them, ask how many of them have heard of these people.
Yes, yeah, you guys, yeah, you've heard of them, you know, just give us a little knowledge.
You know, throw a little thing of you heard it, because there's so many that's still in there that y'all have no idea about the sacrifice they made. And these are, you got two lists. You got the political prisoner from the streets that went in for standing up. Then you got those with the transformation. It's another list that those brothers that are in there now, fighting and making those transitions for those young brains that are in there. So look at both of them.
Okay. These are brothers from the Virgin Island Five, Abdul Aziz, Malik Bey. We got Joseph Bowen, Graylin Brown, also known as Kojo Bomani Sabufu, Fred Burton, Chuck Buck, Byron Shane, also Blanco they call him, Bill Dunn, Alvaro Luna Hernandez, Freddie Hilton, Kamu Siddiqui. I think Freddie, after Kamu was was the father of Akili Shakur's child, Larry Hoover, Kaba Abdullah Malik, Jeff Fort, Maria Mason, Leonard Peltier, that the sister talked about earlier, Native American, just turned 80 years old, Reverend Joy Powell, Jessica Risnick, Hanif Shabazz Bey, Shaka Shakur, and Shaka Shakur, again, Shaka's the last one on this list, and so that we have, I got this from the Jericho movement. And we have this thing that we say, what's the call? Y'all know that? What's the call?
Free them all.
There you go. That's the call. What's the call? Free them all. We gotta end this prison industrial complex, decimating our community. And they, with this new administration coming in, not like the last one, we're doing it too, but they're decimating our community. And we have to do more to put a stop to that. And again, this is part of this Malcolm X lecture series. So if you guys have any more questions and stuff too, we got a few copies of Malcolm's speech, Ballad of the Bullet, that we have. There's a little distortion at the beginning of it, but the rest of it is cool. And we have some refreshments in the back. And Akili, if you got something else, or anybody else, Kim, or part of the Black Lives Matter. This is Black Lives Matter, Gary, also part of the United African Movement, Save Our Families. Again, part of this lecture series is getting brothers and sisters who have put in good work in the legacy of Malcolm, supporting that legacy, and giving them a chance to talk about issues that are affecting our people along the line of what Malcolm was about.
If there is no questions, no comments, I want you all to always just take this with you, join us home. Listen to somebody, okay? And support these brothers and sisters behind the wall, okay? Let them get those books, let them get those newspapers, and if you're not letting them make some noise, because this is the only way. We've got these captive youth behind the wall, and if we don't make a move, the move won't be made, and we will repeat the same mistakes from the past. Okay? Eat the pizza, hurry up, get out.
Thank you.
Yes, give it up. Appreciate everybody coming out. Right on, AC.
Huh?
Sit right on.
Oh, right on, my brother.
What's going on? How you feel? How you? Oh, look, you have it on.